Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, we're going to talk about comparing Hendon Hooker to Will Levis, and did the Titans blow it? Did they make a big mistake? We're going to discuss all of that.
You blew it!
Now, I've had a few days to sort of think about this since the draft and everything that happened, and both Will Levis and Hendon Hooker fell below where a lot of people thought they'd go. Hendon's is more explainable because of the ACL injury. You know, he's going to need a full year to recover from that, and he's not going to be ready to go this fall 100%.
Well, with your bad knee, Ed, you shouldn't throw anybody.
So anybody that drafted him knew, you know, a full year of recovery that he would need to learn the system, get acclimated, get his legs back under him and all that, because scrambling's a big part of his game. So, you know, it probably cost him at least a round. Now, Will Levis dropped down because, honestly, I'm not seeing him being a high first-round pick.
I'm not seeing it here, Lloyd. She must be unlisted.
Like Mel Kiper did and a few others. I just didn't see it. And there was a couple of different reasons why. Now, before I get started, I want to make something real clear. I've got nothing against Will Levis. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I don't know him from Adam. This has nothing to do with him personally, and it's not an attack. And that goes for Hendon Hooker, too. This is just me discussing what I saw this year and last year. I watched a lot of these games. I watched all the Tennessee games. I also watched a lot of the Kentucky games because it's an SEC game. And I love to watch the SEC. So make sure you understand that on the front end. I'm not personally attacking anybody on this. Certainly not Will Levis. That's not the goal. But I'm going to give a fair comparison of what I saw. And in watching Will Levis over the last couple of years at Kentucky, and I've watched a lot of his games, not only the games that he played against Tennessee, but many others. And there's a few shortcomings with this guy that's kind of a problem. And we can look at his numbers, and we'll talk about all that. And it's not all just about the numbers, but they do matter. How you play quarterback matters. And the last 2 years, let's just go by the last 2 years. He didn't play much at Penn State. He had 24 touchdowns and he had 13 interceptions, and that was his big year. That was his banner year at Kentucky, and they won a lot of games, and that was 2021. And the next year he actually regressed. He didn't pass for as many interceptions, but he also didn't have as many touchdowns either. So he wound up with 46 touchdowns and 25 interceptions. And the big thing you've been hearing about Will Levis is, well, he was a little bit injured on his foot. Also, the offensive line wasn't as good this year, and his offensive coordinator wasn't there as well. So there was the three excuses, and some of them are legit, and some of them's a bit, you know, we'll see. But it's not like his numbers were great in 2021. You know, when you have 13 interceptions in a season, that's a lot. You know, that's turning the ball over quite a bit. And they had a great running game that year as well. So, I mean, it's not like he was under pressure to throw the ball a whole lot. So here are the things that I think are different between Will Levis and Hendon Hooker. And understand, Hendon also played at Virginia Tech where he was a starter. Now, as you look at Hendon's numbers, you know, they were pretty solid. 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on a totally different offense. Even the next year where he didn't play quite as well, he had 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Then he went 31-3, 27-2. And you can say, well, that has something to do with Josh Heupel, and I'm sure that it did. But also 13-2, it's not like he was turning the ball over a ton at Virginia Tech. He wound up with 80 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So this is a guy that doesn't turn the ball over much at all, even when he was at Virginia Tech. So that's issue number one. It means he's more accurate. He's also more careful with the football. He doesn't try to squeeze it into places he probably shouldn't. So that gives an advantage to Hendon Hooker. So let's look at what else a quarterback does, okay? Obviously, scrambling's become a big thing, especially in the NFL. It's now moving towards that. You see that at Philadelphia. You see that at Kansas City and a lot of other teams. But there's no question Hendon Hooker's a better scrambler than Will Levis. He's faster, he's quicker, he's more nimble. Now, the one thing Will Levis does have, he's bigger and stronger and could be tougher. And that makes sense. But that had nothing to do with the ACL. That happened with a non-contact injury, which that has nothing to do with size. So that's the one advantage I would get Will Levis. You know, he weighs about 20, 30 more pounds. But as far as scrambling ability, it's Hendon Hooker hands down. So as far as accuracy, it's Hendon Hooker. As far as scrambling, it's Hendon Hooker. Now let's talk about touch. Hendon Hooker made some of the prettiest passes this year, especially with the deep ball, that you'll ever see. I mean, he wasn't just kind of throwing it up there. I mean, you could watch him throwing that ball up there, and he would just finesse it. Even on a 30-yard pass into the end zone, he would just drop it like a dime. And our receivers would always seem to catch it because he throws a very catchable ball. He puts air under it when it needs to have it, and it comes in there like a butterfly with sore feet, and that's an easy ball to catch. Will Levis throws it in there hard, okay? You're either going to catch it or it's going to bounce off your hands and into the second row. So as far as touch goes, that also goes to Hendon Hooker. So accuracy, scrambling ability, and touch, I got to give it to Hendon. And I think that's a fair representation of what I've seen the last few years. The last thing is, are you clutch? And the thing about a great athlete is when the chips are down and when you really need a big play, Hendon came through time and time and time again. The biggest examples of that were Pittsburgh when he ran for a touchdown in overtime and it looked like we were going to win the game. They call it back for holding. All right? That mentally is very hard on an athlete. That would be tough. Most people would be like, well, just not my day. I did everything I could. He came back the next play and threw a 25-yard dime to Cedric Tillman in the end zone, touchdown, we win the game. So he scored 2 touchdowns to win the game in overtime. Then the Alabama game speaks for itself. You know, getting into field goal range with 15 seconds left, under that kind of pressure, he made 2 great passes. You can either do it or you can't. It's just that simple. And I didn't see that from Will Levis this year. You know, they had a poor record, and he didn't make the guys around him better. Hendon made the team around him better. It's just what he did. So I think the Titans made a bad choice. So when it comes to Tennessee Titans, look, if all things were equal, you know, you'd probably choose Hendon Hooker just because, look, you're the Tennessee Titans. This is the state of Tennessee. Hendon Hooker was the starting quarterback for a great team, and he's really beloved in this state. So politically, that would have been the smart move, if all things being equal. But they're not equal. Hendon Hooker, in my opinion, is a better quarterback, and the numbers bear it out, and the eyeball test bears it out. Okay, the one advantage that Will Levis has, with the exception of not having an ACL tear, which is pretty big, is that he's tough. You know, he's about 30 pounds heavier. But, again, he was kind of injured this year too. Other than that, I give all the advantages to Hendon Hooker. Better touch, better accuracy, better scrambler, and more clutch. And that last one, being more clutch, is big. That's as important as any of the other 3. Because when it's winning time, you want somebody that can handle the pressure and come through. And the players around him need to believe that he can do that. Let me tell you something. Every single player on Tennessee's team this year knew Hendon Hooker was going to come through when the pressure was hottest. And that lifts them up because they know Hendon's going to come through for us. And they go out there and they do things they didn't know they could do. That kind of inner confidence that touches everybody around you on a team is invaluable. And that's what Hendon's got.
I'm sorry, winning. You starting to get the concept now? Oops, winning.
And I just don't see that with Will. I just don't. I just don't think they get it. I don't think the Titans get it. I think they made a mistake.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
And I don't think it was really that close, especially when they could have had Hendon any time in the second round. They could have picked him at 41st. They would not have had to trade up to 33rd and picked him right there, let him have a year because they've got a starting quarterback, and that would have been fine. I don't think this was a good choice, you know. And politically, it was a bad choice because if you've seen my comments from where I came out right that night, let me tell you something. There's a lot of people that are not happy with the Tennessee Titans right now. Unintentionally alienated a lot of people. That's just a fact. All right, folks, I just wanted to come out and talk about this a little bit. I've been thinking about it. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols and all these good things. And if you've not subscribed, it's right here on the left. Just hit that little button. Cost you nothing. Would help me out. And right over here is my most recent video. Be sure to check that out. And we will see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.